1941, Cheshire had already been at war with Vicky and had pushed them into their border. Vicky somehow had stocks of T-34s. Cheshire then took them. They were copied and made as the T-62. Some were modified into the T-62-43 and T-62-44. They were experimented with, making the T-62-85 a T-62-100. The PRU, People's Republic Union, a part of the Vickian government, bought 300 T-62s in 1945. They were modified in 1947 to the T-63, given a new turret, and in 1948 Cheshire got its hands on a T-63 and made a hole for the turret, naming it the T-64. It was given a new engine, a new turret, and was used by the Cheshire Army for the 15 years. In 1988, Jeremiah modified the T-64 with a new turret and gun, creating the T-65. About 4 months later, they modified the hull and turret looking like a rip-off M60, named the T-66. The T-66 had 4 major variants: the T-66, the T-66A1, T-66A2 and T-66A3, all having different modifications to guns, armor, fire control, and for the T-66A2 adding a laser rangefinder. In 1989, Jeremiah wanted to replace the T-66A3. A company called Jamaica Works made the OB671, a tank based on the Cheshire OBJ-922. They added the same gun, turret and hull, only adding side skirts. It was better in armor than the T-66, but its depreciation suffered. The design and rights were given to Kerkas, who added it to its military after modifying the tank to have arrow as the T-67K. The tank was modified further into the T-67K1, changing the layout of arrow a bit. That made the T-67K2, adding more arrow to the hull than they made the T-67K2M, changing the gun to a newer version of the M3 Russian-like gun. They then made the T-70 off of the T-67, a heavily modified T-67 with a better arrow system and layout on the turret, a new engine, a M3A18 gun, anti-laser guided missile lights, and new firing controls. In 1993, the T-68 was made, a T-67 with a modified hull, a new turret and a modern gun. It had a night vision system, a laser rangefinder, and better armor. The T-68A was a slightly modified version of the T-68, with a new gun, the M320. In the 2000s, Kingdom of X and Noxum decided it was time to get their hands on their own T-68, and thus the T-68KOX was made. It had a slightly extended turret and was given thicker armor, as well as a new cannon from the company DX Productions. Only the cannon was developed a year later in 2001 due to the requirements that the Defensive Ground Force gave to DX Productions. 2 years later, in 2003, the Defensive Ground Force decided that the T-68KOX had a little low visibility at night with its night vision compared to what was desired. So in 2005, they just took the BFM light from another T-68KOX and slapped it onto the turret roof of the T-68KOX. They also noticed later on in 2006 testing that the BFM light mounted on the turret roof was a little too bright. So it was decided by the Defensive Ground Force to lower the brightness on the turret roof mounted BFM light. And after some tweaking with the brightness, the Defensive Ground Force were satisfied with the end result. Further information on the T-68KOX is still mostly classified, so it's still a mystery on what type of engine it had and or what the cannon's capabilities were. In 2010, the Defensive Ground Force of Kingdom of X and Noxum decided that the T-68KOX was getting old, and they required a new tank to replace the T-68KOX. So the Defensive Ground Force tasked a different company called Nemzeti Harcskocsi Tervező Csapat to start production on the T-69A. It took at least 1 whole year to start development due to the strict requirements, but the most noticeable is that the T-69A was required to use the 125x2006 TXP Mark I cannon, the same cannon that can be found on many T-68KOXs MBTs. Though due to the T-69A being newer, like the T68KOX, most of its information is classified, but the most interesting part about the T69A is that it is nicknamed T68KOX reskin due to the T69A looking like a heavily modded T68KOX. Made in 2013, the Defensive Ground Force of Kingdom of Exonoxum wanted the company Nemzeti Hartskoczy Tervező Csapat to start production on the T69B and T69BA. Although the BA variant came at least 1 year later than the B variant, they both were pretty much a slightly modded T69A. The only things that the two variants had to differ them from each other is that the B variant only added a dozer blade, while the BA had the same dozer blade. It also had a faster autoloader and a slightly modded cannon, as well as a experimental module mounted on the turret roof that measures the speed of the target, so that the crew knows how far to aim in front or behind the target, depending on the speed of the target. Now, the only problem with this experimental module is that it doesn't have any depression or elevation, so it can only measure the target's speed if it's aligned with the level that the T69BA is on. What is sure is that the B and BA variants were both given a faster turret traverse. In 2005, the Caracas Military Design Bureau, KMDB, decided to modernize the T68A. They started by removing the forward-facing smoke launchers and adding aero blocks to the front, and by adding the new NVMS4 system to the front over the NVMS3 before it. The tank was then given aero blocks to the front plate, low glacis, and to a rack on the sides. It was also given a commander-controlled M2HB in 2006. They found a need for the command radio tank, so they modified a T68B and added forward-facing smoke launchers, a commander gun sight firing system, and a bulldozer self-entrenching system.